I first heard Chicago's Heart when I was 16 and taking a train across the country. It was my first time away from home in Arizona, and the first place that I knew myself apart from the centrifuge and cradle of my family in a tiny desert valley. Having been kept close growing up and raised on homemade lullabies that begged me never to break their hearts and go, I was afraid to leave the lock of that land. But as a train rocked me gently through 4 nights across the continent, I was amazed to find myself held by a love other than the hug of that heat and the tug of my people.
I came to this city a wanderer, expecting cold, asking God to guide my feet, my idle hands stuffed in pockets to conceal the heat they held. Home. What does a wanderer know of home? But here, in this heart, beating a song.
The first night on the train, I fell asleep holding a boy's hand. Nothing happened, other than that he sang me and the rest of our car to sleep with a voice so fluid and warm like a night bird that nobody on the car complained. In the morning, he was gone, like the others whose stops came in the night. In the morning light, I saw the world outside for the first time. In the southwest, we rode beside dry riverbeds filled with nothing but the memory of water and cottonwood trees that rustled in the breeze from river winds that stayed behind. In the higher deserts of Colorado and Utah, there were dusty little towns, some bustling, some boarded up. There were bridges over creeks next to occasional heaps of junked up cars, mint and sky blue and vanilla, rusting into the tall, tall grass. In the Midwest, there were stretches of abandoned factories covered with graffiti and climbing vines, the green window glass cracked or broken out by stones, and all of this was beautiful to me.
See, I left a place where silence flowed like spit from the mouths of bureaucrats and preachers who bade the people dance and baptized them in the single eye of day, whose emergent glare betrayed their absence of sight. I yearned to escape the tug of those avenues, where boys slung old J's over power lines and the cars of the hungry crept slowly after dark, their wheels glittering and wide, where heat was rapture and rivers ran wild with the peculiar repetition of a memory that would not die, of the ghost who sent us running past the future. Yes, all of this and so much more than I can tell you with words I have not yet found, but yet this city, cold as the gaze of a stranger in a dream, promises its beauty, and I remember all of this.
All of this is beautiful to me, though I feel like it shouldn't be, and I am ashamed that I don't know more about what led to all of this crumbling. By 16, I have learned to believe that my eyes are too clean, and that whenever they are dazzled, when I am overjoyed by the glory of just getting to be alive in the world, it must be because I'm missing something. In those moments, there is something like a warning from adults that says, my happiness is quaint, ignorant, adorable, dangerous. There is the message that once I really get to know the world, I won't be smiling anymore.
They boarded trains in mass, by the thousand. By the centuries, they flowed northward into dreams of chains they thought fallen after crossing the river Ohio, the river Missouri, the river Mississippi, the Mason-Dixon. We flowed into shadows we yearned to make flesh. Into flesh we hoped embodied dreams. Into time become city, leaping upward, steel and brick and concrete and gladness and the flat face of windows that showed you just what you were. A flowing moment, a divine reflection.
But seeing all of this feels better than not to. It's better than flying overhead and never knowing what's here. Riding along these iron lines that circulate through this country, loving everything I see feels like my only option. At night on the third day, under a moonlit sky, across sparkling panes of snow, we rolled into a giant rail yard in the middle of the country. Like the center of a web, the hub of a continental wheel of rails, I counted 18 on each side, sloping in to the center from all directions. A light with blue flames to keep the switches warm. Union Station sat at the foot of a great silent city on the edge of an inland sea, entirely unexpected, crystalline in its architecture, intricate bridges lacing up the back of a river, skyscrapers exalted and breathless and towering in the frozen air, topped with what looked like icy castles in the sky. Chicago.
As Aleph. Chicago as power of infinity. As infinity raised to its own power, as the gap between 2 points on a plane.
As the hold between this plane and the next.
Between this planet and the one coming.
Between what's coming and what's lost.
Of all things remaining to be seen, this city glimmers between seen and unseen.
Between seen and obscene.
I came here a wanderer, fleeing the labyrinth only to find it multiplied around me. And all of it was beautiful. People sat quiet, holding their things, and it seemed that this was the place where all of our journeys would change, where all of the trains that circulate through the system and come home to be cleaned and recharged, and then go out again to travel the same channels, like rivers or like veins. When we disembarked, I went looking for the heart. I find her, black and dirty and pleading with the startled, tights-wearing tourists. Can you spare some change for the homeless? She says, and help a sister out. I haven't eaten in days. Or, if the hours have stretched on too long, she slumps her bones against the foot of the towers, bends her back, bobs her eyes into her skull. A cardboard sign conceals and declares her at the same time. Now those who are street smart or wish to appear so, ignore her. Everyone knows what she plans to spend that spare change on, and it certainly ain't food. Thrust by the curse of her memories, she can tell you all you need to know of silence, of the absence so dense not even a story gets out. Instead, she nods, says, God bless you, to the tourists who barely notice her and who know the meaning of perhaps none of these words. I felt like here, in the center of the system, there must be some place where the winds and the ghosts and the stories pump through and back out into the body of this country, and I wanted to stand there and listen. I looked for a while, sneaking past ticket agents into the snaking underground network of platforms, but I couldn't find the center of it. So I went back to the newer part with gift shops, and then wandered toward an area more quiet and less busy. Past some sliding glass doors, a wide marble passageway sloped up into a great bright hall. A chamber, like a church, full of people, resting quietly on long, polished, high-backed wooden benches. Their eyes closed, their faces turned up toward the cathedral-like ceiling. And this is why, when the sun sets her honeydew glaze on every still or shimmering thing, and the weary emerge from stone, billowing in awe rivaled only by the ancient Aztecs in its sincerity, when the air quickens and begins to rub its warm breath against the skin, and the first sweet purple whites and golden rods peek from their fertile cups, the hazy-eyed boys enter, murmuring their bleak tongues on the wind, telling of a river wailing for mercy, of a storm winding to God. There was something about the people that was really strange for tired travelers. They seemed bright and peaceful, like people in meditation or prayer. It seemed like they were listening to something. So I went to join them.
I sat on one of the benches and leaned my head back, like theirs were, and looked up. I remember seeing marble columns, the high atrium windows, and my eyes closed, and then I heard this sound.
What does it mean to escape to a city like this? To come face to face with an enigma as wide as your world, to finger its want from the shadows, to let it name you. This is how it feels. The hug of that heat, the tug of my people.
If you sit in the Great Hall in Union Station in Chicago, Illinois, and listen for a while, you can hear the real audible sound of voices echoing across distance and time. Even in silent company, you can hear people shouting and laughing and weeping and calling after one another. It is a wordless sound, but a real sound, like the rustle of leaves in a dry riverbed, or coursing of blood through a heart, or the sea in a seashell. It is amplified somehow by the conch and cavern of that central chamber.
If you love it, it will love you back. If you love it, it will love you back. Lay itself out for your admiration. Pull the drawstring of your heart to tighten its beat. Ride its rhythms into a new name.
Sitting at the center of this heart at 16, I say a prayer to be able to look at and listen to all of this, the crumbling and the rising, and to love it all for as long as I can.
I came here a wanderer, an alien, yearning for the stranger's embrace, seeking a history's resolution. And I found it, and all of it was beautiful.
Janna Sobel, Mr. Reggie Eldridge.